My name is Anthony Wallace, though everyone calls me Tony. I am 63 years old, and I am living in a shared apartment in Chiang Mai, Thailand, with two other retired expats who are just as broken as I am. I sleep on a thin mattress in a room the size of a closet, and I survive on a pension that barely covers my rent and food. 320,000 pounds, the equivalent of roughly $400,000, is gone. My home in Liverpool is gone. My business is gone. My dignity is gone. And the woman I believed was my second chance at love, the woman I called my wife, the woman I would have died for, never existed at all. Her name was Thanaporn, but she told me to call her Yui. She said it meant beautiful in Thai, and I believed her because I wanted to believe everything she told me. She said she was a nurse. She said she was caring for her dying father. She said she had never been married because she was waiting for the right man, someone kind, someone honest, someone like me. She said we were meant to find each other, that fate had brought us together, that we would build a beautiful life in the mountains of northern Thailand. I gave her everything. I paid for her father's hospital bills that turned out to be forgeries. I bought land for our future homeland that was never legally transferred to anyone. I sent her money for emergencies, for family problems, for investment opportunities that never materialized. And when she finally disappeared, after 10 months of carefully orchestrated lies, I was left with nothing but screenshots of our conversations and the devastating realization that I had been nothing more than a mark in a long-running scam. I did not lose my money. I lost the belief that love could save me. I lost the faith that someone could want me for who I was, not what I had. I lost the hope that my life still had meaning. This is the story of how it happened. This is the story of how a 63-year-old electrician from Liverpool became another cautionary tale, another lonely man destroyed by a scam so well executed that I never saw it coming until it was far too late. I suppose I should start by explaining who I was before I met Yui. I was born and raised in Liverpool, the youngest of 3 brothers. My father worked in the shipyards, and my mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. We did not have much, but we had enough. I left school at 16 and became an apprentice electrician, learning the trade the old-fashioned way on the job, making mistakes, getting shouted at by older blokes who knew more than I did. By the time I was in my 20s, I was good at what I did. I worked for various contractors around Liverpool, doing residential and commercial wiring, always reliable, always on time. When I was 28, I married a woman named Claire. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office, and we met at a pub one Friday night. We had 2 children, a daughter named Emma, and a son named Jack. For a long time, life was good. Not exciting, not glamorous, but stable and predictable. In my mid-40s, I started my own electrical contracting business. It was small, just me and 2 other electricians, but it was mine. We did well enough. I was never going to be rich, but I made a decent living, paid my mortgage, put my kids through school, and saved a bit for retirement. But my marriage fell apart. It was not dramatic or sudden. It just slowly crumbled over the years. Claire and I grew distant. We stopped talking about anything meaningful. We became roommates who happened to share a bed. When I was 55, she told me she wanted a divorce. I was not surprised. I was not even upset. I was just tired. We sold the house, split the assets, and went our separate ways. The kids were grown by then. Emma was a teacher in Manchester. Jack was working in London for some tech company I never fully understood. They had their own lives, their own problems. I saw them a few times a year, mostly during holidays, but even those visits felt obligatory, like they were checking a box rather than actually wanting to spend time with me. After the divorce, I moved into a small flat in Anfield. I kept working, kept running my business, but I felt hollow. I would come home to an empty flat, heat up a frozen meal, watch television, and go to bed. Weekends were the worst. I would walk around the city, sit in pubs alone, and watch other people laugh and talk, feeling like I was observing life through a window rather than actually living it. I started thinking about retirement. I was 61, and I was exhausted physically, emotionally, mentally. I had been working since I was 16, and I had nothing to show for it except a small business, a modest pension, and a growing sense that my best years were behind me. That was when I started researching places to retire abroad. I had always wanted to travel, but Claire had never been interested, and after the divorce, I had been too depressed to go anywhere. But now, with nothing tying me to Liverpool, I began to imagine a different life. Somewhere warm, somewhere affordable, somewhere I could stretch my savings and maybe, just maybe, find a sense of peace. Thailand kept coming up in my searches. The cost of living was low, the weather was beautiful, and there was a large expat community. I watched YouTube videos of older British men who had retired to places like Chiang Mai and Pattaya, and they all seemed happy, relaxed, living comfortably on their pensions. I read blogs, joined Facebook groups, and started to imagine myself there. In early 2022, I made the decision. I sold my business to one of my employees for £75,000. I sold my flat for £185,000. I cashed in my pension, a lump sum of about £60,000. In total, I had around £320,000, enough to live very comfortably in Thailand for the rest of my life. I told Emma and Jack about my plan. They were not particularly enthusiastic, but they did not try to stop me. Emma said I should be careful, that there were a lot of scams targeting older men in Thailand. Jack just said, "Good for you, Dad. You deserve to enjoy yourself." Neither of them offered to visit. Neither of them asked me to stay. I told myself it was fine. They had their own lives. In June of 2022, I booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok. I was 61 years old, and I was starting over. I arrived in Bangkok on a hot, humid evening and immediately felt overwhelmed by the noise, the traffic, the sheer chaos of it all. I spent one night in a cheap hotel near the airport, then caught a flight to Chiang Mai the next morning. I had chosen Chiang Mai because it seemed quieter, more manageable than Bangkok or Pattaya. It was in the mountains, surrounded by temples and nature, and the expat community there was known for being friendly and welcoming. I checked into a small guest house in the old city and spent the first few days just walking around, trying to get my bearings. Chiang Mai was beautiful ancient temples on every corner, narrow streets filled with street food vendors, markets selling everything from fresh fruit to handmade crafts. The people were friendly, always smiling, always willing to help, even when we did not speak the same language. But I was lonely, desperately lonely. I would sit in cafes, watching couples and families, and feel the familiar ache of isolation. I had come to Thailand hoping for a fresh start, but I had brought my loneliness with me. It followed me everywhere. After about 2 weeks, I decided I needed to get a motorbike. I had always enjoyed riding back in England, and I thought it would be a good way to explore the area. I found a listing on Facebook Marketplace for a used Honda Click scooter, 15,000 baht, about £350. The seller's name was listed as UES. I messaged her asking if the bike was still available. She replied within minutes, in clear English, saying yes and asking when I would like to see it. We arranged to meet the next day at a cafe near the Tha Pay gate. I showed up early, nervous for reasons I did not fully understand. When Yui arrived, I was struck by how different she was from what I had expected. She was small, maybe 5 feet tall, with short hair and a round, friendly face. She was not glamorous or overly made up. She wore jeans, a simple t-shirt, and sneakers. She looked normal, real. She smiled when she saw me and walked over, extending her hand. "You are Tony?" "Yes," I said, shaking her hand. "And you are Yui?" "Yes." "Nice to meet you. You want to see the bike?" We walked to where she had parked the scooter. It was in good condition, clean, no visible damage, well maintained. I asked her a few questions about the mileage, the service history, and she answered everything clearly and honestly. I told her I would take it. As I was paying her, she asked, "You are new in Chiang Mai?" "Yes," I said, "just arrived a few weeks ago." "You like it here?" "I do. It is beautiful, but I am still figuring everything out." She smiled. "If you need help, you can ask me. I know Chiang Mai very good. I live here all my life." I thanked her, and we exchanged phone numbers so I could contact her if I had any issues with the bike. As I rode away, I felt a strange sense of warmth. She had been kind, genuine, not trying to sell me anything or take advantage of me. It was a small interaction, but it made me feel less alone. That evening, Yui sent me a message on Facebook Messenger. "Hi, Tony. Hope you get home safe. If you want to know a good place to eat or visit, you can ask me anytime. Welcome to Chiang Mai." I smiled and replied, "Thank you, Yui. I appreciate that. It is nice to have a friendly face here." We started chatting regularly after that. At first, it was just simple questions: where to eat, where to shop, how to get around. But gradually, our conversations became more personal. She told me she was 33 years old, that she worked as a nurse at a private clinic, and that she lived with her elderly father who was very sick. She said her mother had died when she was young, and she had been taking care of her father ever since. She said she had never been married because she had always put her family first. I told her about my life, my divorce, my children, my decision to move to Thailand. She listened without judgment, always responding with kindness and empathy. She said I seemed like a good man, that I deserved to be happy. Within a few weeks, we were talking every day. She would send me good morning messages, ask how my day was going, share photos of her lunch or a temple she had visited. It felt natural, easy, like we were old friends catching up. One evening, about a month after we met, Yui asked if I would like to have dinner with her. I said yes immediately. We met at a small Thai restaurant near the river, and we talked for hours. She was funny, intelligent, and incredibly easy to talk to. She asked me about my life in England, about my work, about my family. She told me more about her father's illness. He had lung cancer, she said, and the treatment was expensive. She said she worked extra shifts at the clinic to pay for his care, but it was difficult. I felt a surge of sympathy for her. She was so young to be dealing with such a burden. I told her if she ever needed help, she could ask me. She smiled and said, "You are very kind man, Tony. Not many people like you." By the end of the evening, I felt something I had not felt in years, connection. Real, genuine connection. I walked her to her motorbike, and she hugged me before she left. It was a simple hug, but it made me feel like I mattered. Call to action. If this story is pulling at your heartstrings or making you think twice about online relationships, please subscribe and share this video. Romance scams are devastating, not just financially, but emotionally. Your awareness and support help us expose these predators and protect vulnerable people. Stay with me. Tony's story is about to take a much darker turn. Over the next 2 months, Yui and I became inseparable. We saw each other almost every day. She would finish her shift at the clinic and meet me for dinner. We would ride our motorbikes up into the mountains, explore temples, visit night markets. She introduced me to her friends, took me to local restaurants that tourists never found, taught me basic Thai phrases. I fell in love with her. I know how that sounds, how foolish, how naive. But it happened so naturally that I did not even realize it until it was too late. She made me feel alive again. She made me feel like I was not just drifting through the final years of my life, waiting to die. She made me feel like I had purpose. One evening, about 3 months after we met, we were sitting by the river watching the sunset. Yui turned to me and said, "Tony, I need to tell you something." My heart sank. I thought she was going to say she could not see me anymore, that this had all been a mistake. "What is it?" I asked. She looked down at her hands. "I love you. I know it is fast. I know maybe you think I am crazy, but I love you. You are kind man. You make me happy. I think about you all the time." I stared at her, unable to speak. Then I reached over and took her hand. "I love you too, Yui. I have been afraid to say it, but I do. I love you." She smiled, tears in her eyes, and leaned her head against my shoulder. "I am so happy, Tony. I never think I will find someone like you." From that moment on, we were a couple. She started staying at my apartment several nights a week. She cooked for me, took care of me, made my flat feel like a home. She called me her husband, even though we were not married. She said in her heart, we were already married, and that was what mattered. I had never been happier. I would wake up in the morning and see her sleeping next to me, and I would feel overwhelmed with gratitude. I had been so lonely for so long, and now I had someone who loved me, who wanted to be with me, who made me feel like my life still had meaning. But then, about 4 months into our relationship, Yui started talking about her father more often. She said his condition was getting worse, that the cancer had spread, that the doctors were recommending a new treatment, but it was very expensive. She showed me hospital bills, documents in Thai that I could not read, but they looked official. She said the treatment would cost 120,000 baht, about 2,800 pounds. She said she was trying to save the money, but it was difficult. She said she did not want to ask me for help, that it was not my responsibility. But I could see the worry in her eyes, the exhaustion. I told her I would help. I said her father's health was more important than money. She cried and hugged me, thanking me over and over. "You are angel, Tony. I do not deserve you." I transferred 120,000 baht into her account the next day. She said she would take her father to the hospital the following week to begin the treatment. I offered to go with her, but she said the hospital was far away, in Chiang Rai, and it would be a long, difficult day. She said it would be better if I stayed in Chiang Mai and she would update me. She sent me photos from the hospital, pictures of a medical building, pictures of her father in a hospital bed. She sent me updates throughout the day, telling me the treatment was going well, that the doctors were optimistic. I felt good knowing I had helped. I felt like I had done something meaningful. Over the next few months, there were more expenses. Her father needed additional treatments. There were complications. The medication was more expensive than expected. Each time, Yui would show me the bills, apologize for asking, and I would transfer the money. I never questioned it. I trusted her completely. By the time we had been together for 8 months, I had given her around £80,000 for her father's medical care. It was a significant amount, but I told myself it was worth it. I was helping the woman I loved. I was making a difference. In early 2023, Yui started talking about our future together. She said she wanted to marry me, that she wanted us to have a proper life together. She said her father's health was improving thanks to the treatment, and she was starting to think about what came next. She had an idea. Her family owned land near Chiang Rai, in a small village where her grandparents had lived. She said the land had been in her family for generations, but it had never been developed. She said if we built a house there, we could have a peaceful life in the countryside, away from the noise and chaos of the city. She said it would be our home, a place where we could grow old together. I loved the idea. I had always imagined retiring to a quiet place, surrounded by nature. Yui showed me photos of the land, rolling hills, rice fields, mountains in the distance. It looked like paradise. But there was a problem. The land was registered in her grandmother's name, and in order to transfer it to Yui, there were fees, legal costs, and taxes that needed to be paid. Yui said the total cost would be around 250,000 baht, about 5,800 pounds. She said once the land was in her name, we could start planning the house. I did not hesitate. I transferred the money. Yui said she would take care of the paperwork, that it would take a few weeks to process. She said once it was done, we would visit the land together and start planning our future. Over the next few months, Yui continued to ask for money. There were more legal fees. The land transfer was more complicated than expected. There were taxes that had not been accounted for. Each time, she would apologize, show me documents in Thai, and explain the situation. And each time, I would transfer the money. By the middle of 2023, I had given Yui around 150,000 pounds. I was starting to feel the financial strain. My savings were shrinking faster than I had anticipated. But I told myself it was temporary. Once the land was sorted, once the house was built, we would be set. We would have a home, a future, a life together. Yui also started talking about a traditional Thai wedding. She said it was important to her, that her family expected it, that it would be a beautiful ceremony in her village. She said we would invite her extended family, her friends from the village, and it would be a celebration of our love. She said the cost would be around 100,000 baht, about 2,300 pounds, to cover the ceremony, the food, and the traditional gifts for her family. I agreed. I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to show her family that I was serious, that I was committed. I transferred the money, and Yui began planning the wedding. She showed me photos of traditional Thai wedding decorations, talked about the food we would serve, the music we would have. She was so excited, so full of joy, and I felt proud knowing I was giving her this experience. But the wedding never happened. Every time we set a date, something would come up. Her father's health would take a turn. There would be a problem with the land paperwork. A family emergency would arise. Yui would apologize, saying she was so sorry, that she wanted nothing more than to marry me, but the timing was not right. I told her it was okay. I told her we had all the time in the world. I told her I would wait as long as she needed. I should have seen the warning signs. I should have questioned why there was always another expense, another delay, another reason why things could not move forward. But I did not. I was blinded by love, by hope, by the desperate need to believe that my life still had meaning. In October of 2023, Yui told me that her father had died. She called me in tears, her voice breaking, saying he had passed away peacefully in his sleep. She said the funeral would be in Chiang Rai, in her village, and that she needed to go immediately to make arrangements. I offered to come with her, But she said no. She said the village was remote, that it would be difficult for a foreigner, that she needed to focus on her family. She said she would be back in a few days. She left that evening, and I did not hear from her for 3 days. When she finally called, she sounded exhausted. She said the funeral had been beautiful, that her father was at peace, that her family was grateful for everything I had done to help with his treatment. She said there were final expenses, the funeral costs, the cremation, the ceremony. She said it was around 80,000 baht, about 1,800 pounds. I transferred the money without hesitation. I wanted to help. I wanted to be there for her, even if I could not physically be there. But after that, something changed. Yui started becoming distant. She stopped staying at my apartment. She stopped answering my calls as frequently. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, always in a hurry, always saying she had to go. I asked her if everything was okay. She said she was just tired, that she was grieving, that she needed time. I told her I understood. I told her I would give her space. But the space kept growing. Days turned into a week turned into 2. I barely heard from her. When I tried to call, she would not answer. When I sent messages, she would reply hours later with short, vague responses. I started to panic. I went to the clinic where she said she worked, but the receptionist told me there was no one named Thanaporn or Yui working there. I showed them her photo. They said they had never seen her. I felt my stomach drop. I went to the address she had given me for her father's house, a small street on the outskirts of Chiang Mai. When I arrived, the house was empty. A neighbor told me, in broken English, that the house had been rented out to different people over the years, that no one named Thanaporn had lived there. I tried calling her again. The phone was disconnected. I tried messaging her on Facebook. Her account was gone. I sat on the side of the road, my hands shaking, my mind racing. I pulled up my banking app and checked my account balance. I had around 25,000 pounds left. I had started with 320,000. I had given her nearly 300,000 pounds, and she was gone. I went to the police the next day. I brought my phone, my bank statements, screenshots of our conversations. I sat across from an officer who barely looked at me. "This is relationship problem," he said in broken English. "Not crime. You give her money. She your girlfriend. This normal." "But she lied," I said, my voice shaking. "She lied about her father. She lied about the hospital. She lied about the land. She took everything I had and disappeared." The officer shrugged. "You have paper? You have contract? You have proof she steal? I have our messages. I have the bank transfers. This not enough. You give her money because you want. She not force you. This is civil matter. You need lawyer." I left the station feeling destroyed. I hired a lawyer, a Thai man who spoke good English. He looked at my case and shook his head. "I am sorry, but there is very little we can do. You willingly gave her the money. There is no contract, no agreement, no proof that she promised to repay you. In the eyes of the law, these were gifts." "But she lied about everything," I said. "Her father, the hospital, the land. Can you prove the documents were fake?" "I do not even have the documents. She showed them to me on her phone." He sighed. "Then we have nothing. I am sorry." Over the next few weeks, I tried to piece together what had happened. I joined expat forums online and posted my story. Several people replied saying they had heard similar stories. One man sent me a link to a Thai news article about a woman named Thanaporn Suksawat, who had been investigated years earlier for romance fraud, but had never been charged due to lack of evidence. Another expat told me about a scam ring operating in northern Thailand, targeting older Western men. The scammers would pose as nurses, teachers, or shop owners. They would build relationships over months, sometimes even years, gaining trust before slowly draining their victims' savings. They worked in groups, sharing fake documents, fake hospital bills, fake legal papers. They were professionals. I had been marked from the beginning. The motorbike sale was not a coincidence. Yui had been trolling Facebook Marketplace, looking for foreign men who were new to Thailand, men who seemed lonely, men who seemed vulnerable. She had found me, and she had executed the scam perfectly. I am now 63 years old, and I have around 18,000 pounds left to my name. I moved out of my apartment and into a shared flat with 2 other expats, both men in their 60s who had also been scammed, though not as severely as I had been. We rent a 3-bedroom flat in a rundown building on the outskirts of Chiang Mai. My room is barely large enough for a bed and a small desk. The walls are thin, and I can hear everything my flatmates do. I live on my pension, which is about £1,200 a month. After rent, utilities, and food, I have almost nothing left. I eat street food, shop at cheap markets, and avoid doing anything that costs money. I no longer ride my motorbike. I sold it months ago to cover expenses. I spend my days walking around Chiang Mai, sitting in parks, watching the world go by. I see couples holding hands, and I feel a deep, aching emptiness. I see temples and markets and all the things that once made me feel hopeful, and now they just remind me of Yui, of the future we were supposed to have. I tried calling Emma and Jack to tell them what happened. Emma answered, and when I explained, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Dad, I told you to be careful. I told you Thailand was full of scams. Why did you not listen?" I had no answer. Jack did not even answer my call. He sent me a text message saying he could not help me financially, that he had his own family to take care of. I do not blame them. I made my choices. I ignored the warnings. I let my loneliness and desperation cloud my judgment. I think about Yui every day. I wonder if any of it was real. I wonder if she ever felt anything for me, or if I was just a job, a transaction, a means to an end. I want to believe that some of it was genuine. The laughter, the conversations, the moments when she looked at me with what seemed like real affection. But I know the truth. It was all an act. Every word, every smile, every touch was calculated. I also think about the choices I made. I think about the moment I first transferred money to her, the moment I ignored the voice in my head that told me something was wrong. I think about all the times I could have walked away, all the times I could have asked more questions, demanded more proof, but I did not. I wanted so badly to believe that I was loved, that I was valued, that my life still mattered, that I ignored every warning sign. I destroyed myself, not Yui, me. She was the instrument, but I was the one who handed her the tools. It has been almost a year since Yui disappeared. I am still in Chiang Mai, still living in the shared flat, still trying to figure out how to survive on a fraction of what I once had. I have accepted that I will never get my money back. I have accepted that I will never see justice. I have accepted that this is my life now, small, quiet, defined by loss. I have started volunteering with a local expat organization that helps educate newcomers about scams. I give talks at community centers, sharing my story, warning others not to make the same mistakes I did. It is difficult, standing in front of strangers and admitting how foolish I was. But if I can save even one person from what I went through, then maybe my suffering will have some meaning. I have also started writing. I keep a journal, documenting my experiences, trying to make sense of what happened. Writing helps. It gives me a sense of purpose, however small. But the loneliness is still there. It never goes away. I wake up every morning in my tiny room, and I feel the weight of it pressing down on me. I go to bed every night wondering what the point of it all is, wondering if I will ever feel whole again. I do not think I will. I think this is who I am now, a broken man living in a foreign country, surviving on scraps, haunted by the memory of a woman who never loved me. My name is Anthony Wallace. I am 63 years old, and I lost £320,000, the equivalent of roughly $400,000, to a woman who pretended to love me. I lost my home. I lost my business. I lost my savings. I lost my dignity, and I lost the belief that my life could still be good. I came to Thailand looking for peace, for warmth, for a chance to feel alive again. What I found was a carefully orchestrated scam that exploited my loneliness, my kindness, and my desperate need to be loved. Yui was not a nurse. Her father was not dying. The land was not real. The hospital bills were fake. Everything was a lie. But I believed it. I believed it because I wanted to. Because the alternative, accepting that I was alone, that I would always be alone, was too painful to bear. I sit in my small room now, listening to the sounds of the city outside, and I think about the life I could have had. I think about the home I sold in Liverpool, the business I built, the savings I accumulated over decades of hard work. I think about how easily it all disappeared, how quickly a lifetime of effort can be reduced to nothing. I do not hate Yui. I do not even hate Thailand. I simply exist now, moving through each day with the quiet resignation of a man who knows he destroyed his own life and has no one to blame but himself. I did not lose my money. I lost the belief that love could save me. I lost the faith that someone could want me for who I was, not what I had. I lost the hope that the final years of my life could be filled with warmth and connection, instead of regret and isolation. This is my story. This is my warning. Do not let loneliness blind you to the truth. Do not believe that love can come so easily, so quickly, from someone you barely know. Do not ignore the warnings, the red flags, the voices in your head that tell you something is wrong, because once everything is gone, it is gone forever, and no amount of regret, no amount of wishing, no amount of hoping can bring it back. I gave Yui my savings. She gave me the deepest regret of my life, and now I live with the consequences alone, broke and broken, in a city that once promised me paradise but delivered only pain. Tony's story is a painful reminder that romance scammers are master manipulators who prey on our most basic human needs: connection, love, and belonging. If this documentary opened your eyes to the tactics these criminals use, please subscribe and share this video widely. Awareness is our strongest defense. Stay vigilant, question everything, and remember, real love is patient, transparent, and never requires you to drain your savings to prove your devotion. Thank you for watching, and please, stay safe.